Hey guys, before the video begins, I just want to say, yeah, I know that for a lot of you, it's been a lot of turmoil and it's been really stressful these last couple of weeks. I'm really sorry for that. I don't know what I can do. But regardless of who you are, I just want to say I will support you and you will always have a place on my channel. I'm grateful for you guys, and just the fact you're existing right now is spite enough. Remember, look for the helpers. If you're lost in the darkness, look for the light. And it's been a while since I've said this, but remember, even if people don't want you to be the way you are, you're still loved, you're wanted, and you got this. You will get through this together. Now on with the video.
Mills, over here.
Oh, get off of me!
Not complaining, I'm just curious. Plus honestly, I had to work 2 days in a row this week, so I needed a short video, and I've wanted to cover Sallie Mae for a while, and it's now my chance. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Helluva Boss, or more specifically, Sallie Mae. She doesn't have a last name. That is a crime! Morgana Ignis, if you're watching this video, please, I want her to have a last name, or at least know what it is. At least it's not that other Sallie Mae that you have to pay if you go to college. Sallie Mae should do that! Although, Morgana, if you are watching this, when you write scripts, the Sallie Mae get changed to Mae as in the lone person, because this happened a lot when I was script writing. Now, Helluva Boss is a show that is huge on rep, especially gender rep, and they tend to have a lot of one-off characters that are one-off, but win the hearts of their fan base, and then become pretty popular, like with Chaz or Barbie Wire. And this inspires a bunch of merch, what the show usually uses to help fund themselves. And I have to say, the weirdest for me, in a good way, that the fanbase has embraced is Millie's younger sister, yes, younger sister according to Morgana Ignis, Sallie Mae. In her first appearance, she only got a handful of lines, like I could probably count them all on my one hand. And yet she's one of the biggest characters to come out of the show. Sometimes her popularity eclipses even her own sister and brother-in-law. She gets tons of great cosplays, heck, I even cosplayed as her as of recent, and I might actually do it at Level Up Expo. It's such an odd phenomenon. A good one, but odd for a character that only appeared for like one scene. But I think I know why, so let's discuss. In the Harvest Moon Festival, Stolas invites IMP to the titular festival in the Ring of Wrath, since he wants an excuse to flirt with Blitz while he does work.
We're just visiting for the festival. The prince is our boss's boyfriend.
Millie, I am not above hitting a female in front of her daddy.
Work trip! But because Stolas is a demon prince and Blitz doesn't have feelings for him yet, and he was told there would be cake, they won't be staying with him. They will stay with Millie's family, who run their own ranch.
The Harvest Moon Festival? Yeah!
Well, Millie likes the idea.
I wonder where Stolas was staying, or if he was even staying anywhere, considering he could just make portals. Like, does he really have to, like, rent a hotel when he can just, like, use his portal powers to go to and fro? But anyhow, we meet Millie's family, Imps who own a hog ranch. There's her mother, Lynn, and her father, Joe. Fun fact, Joe is voiced by Edward Bosco, who was the pilot voice actor for Alistair, and would take over from Norman Reedus to voice Stryker when the time came in Season 2.
How have you been with all the flaming twisters and stuff around here?
We lost our old farmhand to one of them terrors last week.
I think that's a fun fact. And we discover pretty quickly that Millie's parents do not like Moxie because he is a weakling. He is weak and scrawny and short. He's like me, because I'm weak and scrawny and short and weak. When RAF means you embody RAF, aka proving yourself athletically in terms of strength. Also, since this is important later, as we later learn in Lululand, Millie has a number of siblings. I think like 5 or 6 we see in Sinsmas at the moment there, and there can honestly be more considering how Millie mentions one of her brothers is married. He could have been like her and just like moved away. And while she usually does say brothers, well, I like how she clarified there it was siblings.
You really like this place, huh?
I love this place. My parents would bring me and my siblings here when they could swing it, money-wise.
Yeah.
Just saying, I think this embodies Sallie Mae and how she's accepted pretty well.
Deal, you get to root for her and your brothers, and now you can cheer on your boss.
Moxie tries and fails to impress his in-laws with his physical strength when he has none, because he's like me and I'm not doing this again. Especially with Stryker right there, and I like Stryker's pilot voice, he is so hot. Wait, what was I saying? Okay. Lynn says there is another thing to do to prove your strength. In honor of the Harvest Moon Festival, they will be holding the Pain Games, aka a series of athletic challenges to see who is the strongest in town. Unfortunately, Millie isn't allowed to compete because she has a high body count, which angers her.
How come Sallie Mae still gets to compete?
Your sister doesn't have a neighborhood head count.
She so does.
It doesn't count if they don't find the body.
It's true, Mills. It's kind of like the rules of cheating, where you're only really a cheater if you get caught. And Millie just sees red whenever she gets angry, so she doesn't really know how to deal with cleanup. Whereas Moxie, yeah, he'd probably be the one to clean up after her. Wow, they work so well as a couple. They, complement each other in the best way. But Millie does try to console Moxie.
You don't need my parents to respect you. They will eventually.
No, they won't. What? I'm right, ain't I?
Wow, Sallie, you are, savage. But yeah, you are completely right. It's a hard thing to accept that your in-laws don't like you, or your parents don't like who you're with. But it is still your life. And I like how with this show, Millie's parents aren't overbearing like usual, or just hate Moxie because he's not good enough. I mean, he's not good enough, but they're not like, oh, Millie, you need to break up with him and date Striker. They just don't like him, but they're willing to be civil with him because he's with Millie, and I think that's pretty important. So Moxie decides if Millie can't compete, he will, even if that'll probably just validate to Joe and Lynn that they were right to distrust him and him being weak.
How pissed would you be if I bet on him dying?
Now, fun fact, this is all the scenes we get of Sallie Mae in this one episode, and we don't see her again until next season. And you guys know that Helluva Boss releases one episode every other month or something like that, so we didn't see her for years. And yet, she's still super popular. And you're probably curious why. To me, I think it's for a few reasons. One, she has a pretty cool design. Two, she's got a lot of great wit and jokes. Her lines are really quotable. And three, she has amazing representation. And no, I'm not saying that people only like Sallie Mae because she's trans. If she was a normal guy, then nobody would like her. Honestly, I feel like they probably would, considering jazz. But I'm sure for a lot of people, especially a lot of trans people, it does massively help. See, I think Sallie Mae being trans is done pretty creatively for a show like this. In universe, there are certain characteristics of imps depending on what they're assigned at birth. AFAB imps tend to have black hair and black horns with little white lines on them. Think Millie or Barbie. Whereas AMAB imps, aka those assigned male at birth, have white hair and striped harlequin horns. Think Moxie or Blitz. Sallie Mae has striped horns and her hair is black, yes, but we do see her roots growing in, implying that her hair is dyed. Heck, later in Queen Bee, we also see a party goer who knows Blitz, and he has black horns and white hair, aka he's transmasculine, whereas Sallie Mae is transfeminine.
Hey, that sounds like Blitzo!
The O is silent!
Hey, I knew it was you! You have a daughter now?
Adopted.
Man, you're already leaving?
So it's cool that Sallie Mae isn't the only one. And honestly, I do kind of appreciate they did have a trans back character since those are really rare. I think the only other one I've seen as of recent is Rain Whispers. Although they're non-binary, but they were confirmed by their voice actor to be trans-mac, so I think that's pretty good. And we even see with him that he has his roots showing too, again implying that he dyed his hair. So yes, the way they're doing rep here is super unique, and I like how her and that guy don't change their horns, or feel that they need to, like maybe painting over them or something. Obviously, it's meant to be an indicator to the audience, but it's also a cool way to embrace those parts of themselves without hiding it. Even Fizz, no matter how much he views his horns as a flaw, never sought to correct them. He just wore headdresses. And some of his fans did have horns that looked like his. Maybe you can argue they thought they were imitating him, but maybe some of them were in similar situations and lost their horns, and maybe the fact that Fizz's horns are gone too is actually kind of freeing for them. Maybe you can argue for Sallie Mae, her horns look the way they do because maybe she can't afford to change them. But I think it's also a pretty good way of telling the audience that you can still be trans and not have to fully transition. Either because you can't afford to, or maybe you just don't want to because, hey, surgery is really scary, or maybe it's hard for you to get surgery or hormones depending on where you live, or hey, they're just really expensive. And that is completely valid, and you're fine for it. You're not gonna go into bathrooms to harass women and children, you're just you. Heck, we also see in merch that Sallie Mae has a bulge at times, and has no problem putting it on full display, and it's portrayed as just another part of her that nobody cares about. And Sallie Mae's voice actress actress Morgana Ignis, who is trans herself, and BTW Sallie Mae is based off of her, fought really hard for Spindlehorse to include that because many trans women don't tuck, or they don't tuck all of the time. And I think that's pretty awesome. However, I do have a question from my viewers who are trans, because I do try to learn sometimes. If you were to cosplay as a character who is canonically trans, is it offensive to also do a bulge? Since I've cosplayed Sallie Mae, and something I struggled with was the idea of whether or not to include one. But I'm not trans myself, and I didn't know if it was equivalent to, say, blackface or something, so I didn't do it. I just like to ask ahead of time. I have done drag a couple of times, and I made a bulge, but when I was doing it, I typically cosplayed as male characters who were AMABs. But anyhow, I think I know another reason why Sallie Mae is so popular and why she resonates with so many viewers despite her limited screen time. It's because of how the show treats the fact she's trans. See, normally with trans characters, it's kind of like how shows tend to treat disabled characters. They have good intentions, but more often than not, they're just props to preach for, or against. Either they're pitied or they're emulated. Pitied as in society doesn't accept them, or they don't accept themselves, or they can't afford this or that, so poor them. Even for as much as I love the representation in Dead End Paranormal Park, the whole reason Barney left home in the first place to go work at Phoenix Parks was because his parents did not defend him against his transphobic grandma. So again, it does kind of fall into that whole trapping.
Ugh, I don't get it. We accepted you.
That is what parents are supposed to do. That's the bare minimum.
Which, yes, it is good to say that we shouldn't be doing that because trans people are people too, but after a while, yeah, the doom and gloom kinda gets old, I hate to say. Like, how many times can you really say something beyond, oh yeah, this still happens today? Yeah, it does, and I want to celebrate something besides that.
Well, that's just confusing.
Yeah, you're setting a bad example.
To me, rep means showing the good parts and the bad parts. And while I do advocate for sometimes showing that people from these groups can be bad people, because they're still people, well, Sallie Mae isn't any worse than the people around her. She literally lives in a place where murder is as big a pastime as football. I mean, even Millie kills people for fun. Is it really all that different? The only difference is Sallie Mae knows how to hide a body. The other side of the fence is they heap endless praise on them. You know, like putting them on a pedestal. And you know my problems with this. To be put on a pedestal, you need to have done something pedestal worthy, and I don't think being a simple farm girl who murders in her spare time is really all that pedestal worthy in this world. I mean, maybe if she won the Pain Games I could see that, but she did not win them as far as I know. It was only Blitz and Stryker.
The winners are Stryker and my darling Mitzi.
Just say my name right.
So they don't do that. She's average. Honestly, in many ways, it kind of reminds me of what South Park does with Timmy and Jimmy, where nobody really comments on it or has a problem with it, so it's just another fact of life. They're equals, and that's more important than being like, if I can, you can too. However, Sallie Mae does have a personality outside of just being token rep, which considering the background imps, I don't think she is all that token. We saw in Hell's Bells that she does feel a twinge of jealousy at Millie at getting able to live in the city, while she's stuck working at the ranch.
I was there at the last Harvest Moon Festival.
For your fancy job, I couldn't really see how I'd fit into this shiny new life you built.
Especially considering how Ghostbusters would show us just how big of a deal it is that IMP was able to establish and run in the Pride Ring in the first place. But she does love her sister, and she does want her to visit more, and vice versa. And she also has a pretty good fashion sense. Thank you, Spindlehorse, for making Sallie Mae way easier to cosplay as, because I don't have to paint myself, like, red completely. Not to mention how the people close to her tend to treat her. They don't care. Not in a bad way, like, ugh, we don't care, Sallie Mae. Just, it's another fact of life, so who cares? It's her choice and they accept it. It's not hurting anybody, so why even comment on it in the first place? We don't know when Sallie Mae came out to her parents or when she started transitioning, and we don't have to. They love and care for her now, and they let her live the way she wants, especially in terms of setting. Remember, Helluva Boss takes place in hell, and it takes 5 years to schedule a Hell Me shot, and yet Sallie Mae was able to get the resources to transition at least a little. Plus, rap is basically modeled after the stereotypical Deep South, and normally in the stereotypical Deep South, yeah, trans people are a big no-no. And yet Sallie Mae never feels uncomfortable living there. She just hates having to work constantly, which, no offense dudes, most of us hate working constantly. Plus there's never any slip-up like you'd expect in most shows to show they have trans characters and they're accepting. Like, they're not like, oh, Millie, your brother, sorry, your sister doesn't have a head count unlike you, or hey, bro, oh, I'm sorry, sis, Millie, it's been a year, come on. Plus, Sallie Mae is the type of person where I feel like if somebody did slip up, she wouldn't care if she personally knew them and they apologized or something like that, since sometimes you do try to be accepting, but yeah, accidents happen.
Today was great. It reminded me of how we used to be like this damn near every day before you left. I hate to think that it'll be even longer before we see each other again.
Plus, I will say there is a big difference between intentionally misgendering people and just making a mistake. And people will appreciate it more if you do try and you make a mistake, because it is a sign you do accept them and you are trying to be better. And you will get it eventually. Also, Sallie Mae was able to compete in an event based around physical strength, where people of all genders did, and nobody thought of the idea that she could use her physical strength to her advantage because she's trans. I mean, we never actually see her compete, but at the same time, I do think this makes sense. She did joke to Millie she wanted to bet on Moxie's death, so maybe this was just a better opportunity for her. Like, screw the pain games, I'm gonna watch this show unfurl. This is too good of an opportunity to pass up. Also, this is just a me thing, but I like the irony that while Moxie accepts his sister-in-law, she doesn't accept him, mostly because he's weak.
You showed up with that blue-blooded bird, that cupcake husband of yours.
But hey, it's just a me thing. He can't help himself. He can't help that he's weak. I think the final reason she's so popular is because of her voice actress Morgana Ignis, who herself is pretty popular. And I've met her a couple of times at cons, and she is super nice. I mean, I say that for most of the Helluverse, but she is super nice. I always like how she cosplays at the cons. Like at Level Up, she was doing selfies dressed as Sallie Mae. It's a great way to connect with the fan base, and I don't think most cast members usually cosplay as their characters except for like really quick events. Morgana is one of the main head honchos at Spindlehorse, especially in charge of branding and merchandising and marketing. And she's also a friend of Vivian Madrano, who personally approached her to play Sallie Mae and offer some advice. And she's also a friend of Brandon Rogers, hence her being in a lot of his projects as of recent. Morgana has often connected with the fan base, like promoting Helluverse merch on her Instagram page, or if she appears at cons, she also moderates the Helluverse panels. Like, sometimes if you dress up as one of her characters, she'll offer a discount. I'm not saying do it to get the discount, do it because you want to. I think one of my favorite con memories was when I showed up at Twin Cities Con dressed as Bobby Worst, and I joked about her being Florence, like the secretary from the Bryce miniseries when Bobby is married to Bryce. And we had this riveting conversation where she said how upset she felt that Florence lucked out, since at least Donovan died but got to come back as a bunch of robots, whereas Florence had nobody. And we decided that Florence got cloned as Claire Atlas, and now she's living her best life in LA, so happy ending. But my stories aside, why do I appreciate this? For many reasons. When I do rep, I feel like the people in that group come first, like in terms of consultation and all that good stuff, since even if you aren't from that group, you are basing what's being presented on experiences from that group. You kinda owe it to them, I hate to say. Plus, it's not all about you. Even if you don't see it, it still happens. And with trans characters, especially nowadays, it's very rare for them to be played by actual trans actors. Normally, it's just people in drag. Even in the 90s, Hilary Swank played a trans boy, and the only reason people accepted it was because back then it was especially hard. I mean, some pieces of media like Squid Game or even Headwing, I'll put that on the list, do explain why it's a hand wave, which I will accept, but that does make it hard for many trans actors to find roles. It is hard enough already, after all, outside of the industry. And while I do wish Sallie Mae got more to do, well, I get why she doesn't at the moment. She lives super far away from her sister, and she can't afford to travel often.
So many more exciting things to show!
Yeah, I mean, with so many exciting things here, it's no wonder you never make your way back home. That slipped out.
Plus, I wouldn't be surprised if Sallie Mae wasn't meant to be anything major, hence her limited screen time. Just Millie's sister, and a nice way to throw in some really cool rep without it being overbearing or over the top. But the fan base loved her and now want her to come back, so she will come back one day. I mean, she has started to. And hey, Morgana has embraced being Sallie Mae. Oh my god. Does this mean Sallie Mae's a recipient of the Elijah Michelson treatment? Yee fucking ha! But yeah, the show has begun to acknowledge this. The first hell of a short we got was released at Level Up Expo and called Hell's Bells, which was written by Morgana herself, which is pretty cool. I think this was actually the first piece of Helluva Boss stuff that wasn't written by Vizzy Pop, Adam Neeland, or Brandon Rogers. And it was inspired by the relationship she has with her own sister, which is pretty sweet, where we get to see just how much Millie and Sallie Mae get along and care for one one another. While in Sinsmith, she gets a quick scene at the end.
Hey!
Hey, Sal, you alone?
Yes.
Dude, Sallie Mae is a really good sister. And sorry if it sounds like I'm kissing up, I'm trying not to very hard. Normally in these shows, she'd be like, oh no, I'm alone. Mom, shut up. No, here she actually makes sure she can talk to Millie in confidence. She gets up and goes in the other room. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of Sallie Mae in season 3. Like if she talks to Millie more about her feelings about not Octavia over the phone, or if she comes for another visit, or if they have to go down to the rap ring again, or if maybe she comes out to see her future dibling or whatever, or help to take care of Millie, or hey, maybe Millie can't be on the job during her 3rd trimester, so Sallie fills in. Especially since Millie told her she was always welcome to visit whenever she wanted. But for now, this is Sallie Mae, and to me, this is why she's immensely popular. She's got good rep, a good character, etc. Plus, it's great how her voice actor has connected with the fandom. Actually, that goes for most of the Helluverse. I don't think I've quite seen a cast and crew connect with their fan base like this. Like, I told you guys how Vivian Madrano actually hugged me when she found out I did Helluverse videos. You can really tell they love what they do, and they love the world they created, and they love how many people they got to help. And I love it. Anyhow, bye!